bring your fishing partner and throw in your line and pull up an easel and let's paint. We're in the outback of Australia. It's 2007, Throwback Thursday, and I'm at Mary Pool, and we've brought the caravan alongside the river. There's a crocodile in the river, so keep your eye out for it. And we're going to paint the grass. And you know my feeling about painting? You need to look at your subject. So we have the vision of the grasses behind the painting. I'm finishing off this painting. We've done the initial plan and block in stages, and now we're into the detail stages. Because the painting is dry, I'm putting a little bit of retouch varnish down over the dry oil paint to give myself a slightly tacky surface that I'll be able to get the paint to adhere to. Because the varnish brush would dry out quickly, I'm cleaning it quickly too. We don't want it to deteriorate. Can you hear the wind through those grasses? This is why we paint on site, to realize that what we're painting isn't just a still object. The photograph will render it still. We're trying to paint something that's living. And when you paint on site, you pick up this aromas all around you. You feel the chill of the cold air or the warm or the heat. You see the bird life. You just get the whole environment. You're not just painting a still object. And nothing can teach you that as much as going out and painting on site. It's not always convenient. You'll get dust and grass seeds in your painting, and that's all part of the reality of it. That's actually something judges will look for. They'll want to see a little bit of evidence that a landscape was painted in the landscape. Now, you can always go out and do quick little studies and finish them in the studio if you're not comfortable working a lot on location. But on location is the best place to work your small studies, and you can save them big studies for working up from the experience of doing your small work. Now I'm painting grasses here with the edge of a palette knife. I'm mixing the paint with a little bit of stand linseed oil and putting it on with the edge of a palette knife. I remember vividly, I was in my 30s and I asked a master artist to show me how he painted the grasses, and he picked up a palette knife and he turned it to the edge like this and he put down blades of grass. Well, I was so impressed and I said, oh, that's how you do it. Well, I'll tell you what, he nearly jumped down my throat. He said, no. He said, that is not how you do it. 40 years of doing this is how you do it. Well, I had to laugh. The Japanese pottery masters always felt there was a 40-year apprenticeship in learning how to become a great potter. And here was this gentleman telling me it would take 40 years to master that particular stroke. Well, I'm a very impatient person when I want to learn something. And I went home and I thought, well, I don't want to wait 40 years. I was already in my 30s. So I got the newspapers out. There wasn't any internet back then. We got newspapers, so I had plenty of practice sheets of paper, and I sat there in the evening and I just practiced with the edge of the palette knife, doing blade of grass stroke over and over again with the edge of the palette knife. I spent a couple of hours just practicing, and I did that for a very long time until I mastered it to the satisfaction that I was after. Now, I'm actually very rusty with oil painting. You may laugh at that. Here I have been painting since I was 7 years old. I've been training at art, and I had a 50-year professional art career and my own gallery, and well, I represented Australia at the International Artists Festival, so the experience is there. But I stopped painting in oil paints back in 2010 when I started to write novels, and I've written 7 novels, and I took 7 years to do that. And during that time, I did very little painting. So, see, I'm coming back to it. I've only been painting this year since I've started to do YouTube, and I decided that I was going to pass on to you my tips and tricks, if you like. This is a trick. It's something I have shown all my art students. When we've gone out in the landscape and we've been painting the landscape, I've bent down and I've picked some of the grasses that were there at the landscape itself after we'd done this initial work with our brush and maybe the painting knife, and I used the actual grasses in the area as paintbrushes for the finishing off stages. And my students all love that particular technique, as I do. So, as I said, watch the subject that you're painting. The photograph will not give you what you can see in the video image behind the painting. There is the movement. There is the changing light patterns. As I said, there's the sound of the grasses rustling. There's the movement in them. There's the wildlife that will wander through them. It's a whole experience. You just cannot get any of that experience just by looking at a photograph. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to become a master painter. Become familiar with your subject. It's very similar to how a writer will generally be advised to write what they know or to have done a great deal of research before they write something. Here's my grasses. I've been out and harvested some grasses from around the area where I've been painting, and it's got a lovely variety to choose from. I'm going to mix a little bit of stane linseed oil with the paint. I found it very hard to get out of that small dipper, so I've ended up pouring some of the stane oil onto the palette so that it was a little bit more accessible to me. Now I just moisten my grasses with the oil and then rub it through and then flick it, and you get a wonderful textured pattern, very similar to the grass itself. You see that? It's quite exciting actually. It, the natural grass, the natural brush in this case, can achieve so much more in creating a realistic grass effect than you could ever achieve with a paintbrush made by man. Nature's given you the perfect tool to paint grass with, and that's the grass itself. Look at that. Just looks like it's got the seed heads on the top of the grass and all. And you're getting the feeling of movement because you're flicking. The grass is going off in all different directions, just like the real grass itself does. There may be a general direction, the direction of the breeze, but there's no stiff formality to it. There's an asymmetry. You've got to watch that you don't do something and think, oh, that looks fabulous, and keep on doing it to the point where you have a stiff repetitiveness across the painting. That's a big problem that amateurs can have, in that you do something and it looks good and you just keep repeating the same brush stroke over and over. You've got to vary that brush stroke. You've got to have areas where there's spaces, areas where there's clusters. Build up the asymmetry of nature. I absolutely love doing this technique. And as I said, all my students that have learned it, they've loved doing it too. It just has that lovely natural effect. And I think often that artists don't show you these techniques. They kind of keep a lot of their tips to themselves while they're in their professional career. I always showed it to my students, but then I had wonderful students and there was just no need to hold anything back. I've worked very hard to learn the skills that I've learned, even now with my YouTube, making it a success. I'm working absolutely full time. I'm not trying to do this part time. I'm putting everything into it, and I believe in myself. I believe that I'll become a successful YouTuber with your help. And I'm very appreciative of those YouTubers who are passing on information to me on about how I can become good at my work on YouTube, because without their passing on their tips, I wouldn't be mastering the skills that I need. So I don't believe in holding teaching skills back from people. I don't believe in giving just a hobby class. If you're going to teach, you show people all these little tips and tricks, if you like. You show them what you learn and you help them become successful. If you practice regularly, you'll become good at it. It's a good idea to join a class or set class times. Even now, I set myself a time between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. at night when I must go into the studio to paint. Now, I might go into the studio and paint more than that, and I might paint at different times of the day too. But 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, it's like a commitment I've made. That's my studio time. And by making that commitment, I will go in there and I will work. And if I didn't make a commitment, I may decide, oh, I'm more comfortable just sitting in the armchair, cuddling the cat, or watching TV with my husband, and it mightn't get done. I've also made a commitment that I will teach 6 times a week as long as I can. And it would be so easy sometimes to say, well, look, I'm tired tonight. I'll skip that. But no, I made a commitment to you that I'm going to do a Monday motivations, a Tuesday travel, a Wednesday watercolor, a Thursday throwback, a Friday flowers or fine art, and a Saturday or a fun painting caricature Saturday. And I'll do that every chance that I get. And I just won't let myself say, oh, let's not bother tonight. You know what I mean? It's a commitment. It's something I can do. It's something I'd like to do. And so if you make yourself a plan on the on when you're going to paint, if you book into a physical class that you go to, it's very simple. You know that you might go out and paint Thursday night. But if you're learning off of the internet, you may need to discipline yourself and say, well, look, each day I'm going to log in and follow that person's lessons each day, or I'm maybe going to follow half a dozen people's lessons, and then I'm going to spend so much time. It might be 2, 3 hours practicing, and if you do that and you keep that up, you will get good, because it's not just learning how to do something; it's putting into practice. And if you don't have somebody there telling you, like you're doing this from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., you, you need to do that for yourself. You need to make yourself that time for yourself to learn. Yes, do the cleanup straight away, especially if you have cats and it's sticky, messy, medium like oil paint. And that's my problem. My cats are absolutely fascinated with this particular one because of all this greenery. You know what cats are like when you bring in stuff. It's almost like I brought in the catnip. They want to get into this. Here we go. There's Valentine. Can you see him down in the bottom corner there? He's very fascinated. So I've heard a tip that cats don't like silver foil. Well, I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I'm spreading out silver foil over the art materials that I'm leaving out, and let's see if that's a deterrent for cats or not. I'll let you know if it works, okay? Now please do subscribe and like and comment. I'd love to hear from you.